What's up, everybody? Hey, I'm on the
We're
wrong
live.
side.
No, you're on that side.
Yeah, I'm on the wrong side. I'm always on the
No.
other side.
But it's your birthday.
Yeah, but this is screwing me up, man.
Does everybody know that it's live Pontiac Power Hour? I'm Buff from Buff's Garage.
And
This
I'm
is
Ray. Yeah.
And it's his birthday. So everybody in the comments below, tell him happy birthday.
I'm 35 today.
Wow. You don't look a day over 34.
Okay, maybe it's 46 and I felt 90 this morning when I got up.
Well, I fixed the video for you. Everybody else just kind of hang tight and I'll be right back.
Welcome to my party, we're just getting started. A life is a dream or a nightmare scarring. Hand me a drink cause I think I'm going all in. Get me a shrink who can catch me when I'm falling. Cover up my scars, flip the handlebars. Crashing in my car, wake up in a bar. I'll be a superstar, just on my avatar. This world is so bizarre, empty out the reservoir. Yeah, I'm taking 6 shots, yeah, straight to the face. And I wanna get lost, I'm sick of this place. Don't know how to stop when I'm feeling this way. So I'm taking 6 shots till I'm feeling okay. I think I'm going crazy, don't think I'll get home safe. So I'm taking 6 shots all straight to the face. I'm taking 6 shots, are you coming with me? I'm taking 6 shots, yeah, straight to the face. And I wanna get lost, I'm sick of this place. Don't know how to stop when I'm feeling this way. So I'm taking 6 shots till I'm feeling okay. I think I'm going crazy, don't think I'll get home safe. So I'm taking 6 shots all straight to the face. I'm taking 6 shots, are you coming with me?
Well, that was awesome.
Happy
I'm going to
birthday, buddy.
venture to say that my wife had something to do with some of those pictures.
I may have talked to your wife today.
I had a feeling.
Hey, you can't hide forever, man. We always find you. All right, let's see who we got today. Oh my goodness, the chat is blowing up. Well, John Wilburn, thank you for being number 1 tonight. He is the first in our chat. Hunter from Sand Mountain Ballistics, always here and always appreciated. You can't have Mopar without Tim is in the chat. Testa Speed Shop. Pure Pontiac Garage. Let's see. Colleen Tebow. Irish Outlaw Garage. And Unfinished Project. We got DS. And let's see. Oh, I love this. Buff, Ray, and Egon. Yeah. Alan's Cars and Stuff. Ryan from Streetcar Chronicles. Welcome, sir. Oh, we got Dakota's Timeout. Oh, thanks. It's royalty free, Dakota. Don't hate on my music, buddy. Danny Boyd is here. Dudes with Wrenches. Sorry, I lost my voice this week. It's coming back.
Dudes with Wrenches.
Much better. I like it.
Yeah.
And let's see who else. We got Cousin Mike's here. Chad from Square Body Stuff. Danny Boyd. And I think we said DS, but we got him still here. All right. Well, again, it's happy birthday, man. I got to tell you, I'm just so excited about being able to celebrate your birthday right here on Pontiac Power Hour.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it. So I had a pretty good birthday. I worked,
Awesome.
Well,
I'm at work. See, I even decorated.
I see that. I came home and pulled the axle out of the Le Mans because I have a seal leaking and it won't stop. It's driving me nuts. So I figure since it's cold, weather's getting nasty, I might as well fix it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, on the 9-inch, and I imagine the old Pontiac rear ends are the same way, the bearing is pushed on or pressed onto the axle shaft. Actually, I know the Pontiac axles are that way. The bearing's pressed onto the axle shaft, and then it's got this little, it's a like a keeper that presses on behind it.
Mm-hmm.
I had broke that when I pressed it on.
Oh, wow.
So I wanted to drive the car, so I TIG welded 2 little spots on it. Well, I remembered that today because now I had to figure out how to get that off so I can replace that seal. I'm like, man, it always comes back to bite me in the butt.
Hey, it worked though, right?
Yeah, it held. So now I don't know. I might just put a new axle in it. I don't know. It doesn't match the other side because I ordered 2 axles from the same company and I ended up with 2 different axles. I'm not real sure what.
Somehow this is related. Hunter says it's because it's LS.
Yeah. It's because it's got so much power that it, spun that seal. That'd be my guess.
Yeah.
BNR, welcome to the real Pontiac Power Hour.
Dudes with Wrenches says air chisel will fix that axle right up.
Yeah, probably. I figure my die grinder.
Hey, I had longer than 30 seconds, John Wilburn, but I also had almost no supplies because, I'm stuck here. So I just borrowed them.
Yeah, so there's probably a neighbor missing Christmas decorations.
I'll have them back in an hour. They won't know. Here, but I did decorate this. So let's pause for 1 second for a commercial. Boom. We have our own commercial now.
That's awesome, man.
I can't decorate the wall, but I'll decorate the screen.
I tell you, the host of this show is pretty talented with this stuff. I can tell you that much.
That's this guy.
No, that's that guy.
See.
Now I screwed myself up again.
Well, what I want to tell everybody is we appreciate everybody watching. We know that both of our sub counts have grown simply because of this show, and this show is almost bigger than any one of our channels is, obviously. And we have nailed some pretty amazing guests coming up, and we already have. I mean, we had a Thanksgiving special on Thanksgiving with Steve Maggs. I mean, who does that? Hey, stop eating turkey, come hang out and talk Pontiacs. He not only loved it, he wants to come back. So we will be booking him on another show down the road. But we've got new guests coming. We've got people literally confirming. I mean, today on my phone, confirming that they want to do Pontiac Power Hour. People are coming to us and saying, we want to do Pontiac Power Hour. So December is going to be bringing you more stuff. We got more show, more Pontiac, more guests, and we even got prizes, and we got bigger prizes and more stuff coming because it's Christmas. We got to, right?
Right. Have to.
It is not John DeLorean.
Is that guy still alive?
Regardless, it is not going to be John DeLorean.
Dr. Art showed up.
Look at that.
And Chad with square body stuff. Did you say him?
Oh, I did. I can't forget Chad.
No. Man, all we need now is perpetual projects. And
Yeah, where are they at?
we'd have almost the whole No Name Nationals crew here.
We got a lot of them.
Yeah.
And the fact that we picked up so many people from outside that group, it's this show that's done it. But tonight, our special guest is, of course, our host, who has, decided to go get a year older today. And he not only stepped up while I was ill last week, he helped with the topic. He, had to actually endure a birthday at work. And and he's hosting the show. So we appreciate all of that.
I went outside my comfort zone and I actually loaded part of the show, and I just knew for sure that I was going to crash the whole damn internet. I just figured I could somehow. I don't know, because I can do that.
Right.
I can build cars, but technology, not so much. But I can tune my car on my computer, and that's not an issue.
Unless you're a diehard Pontiac fan, and then they're going to call you out for being
Now, see, I got an idea in my head. Okay, listen to this.
All right.
And there's some guys in here that can respect this.
All right.
So I was trying to go to sleep last night, and I couldn't go to sleep. And I was thinking about this 400 Pontiac I'm picking up. Yes, I'm picking up a 400 Pontiac.
Wait. Did you guys hear that?
Yes.
He's picking up a 400 Pontiac.
It will not be going in my Le Mans.
But it's an actual Pontiac engine. Just to be clear, it's not a 400 Chevy. It's a 400 Pontiac. All right, continue.
So I'm going to mix a little bit of Pontiac and LS together. Are you intrigued?
Okay, now you just soured it. No, go ahead.
No,
seriously.
See, I'm going to use a 24X reluctor wheel on the harmonic balancer of this 400, and use the 24X sensor, crank sensor, and I'm going to run Holley Terminator X on a 400 Pontiac. I've got it figured out in my head how to do it.
So throttle body or tune port?
It'll be like the same intake setup as the LS.
Oh.
There's a company that makes them. So it'll have coil on plug, like LS coils, basically the whole LS wiring harness.
So you're going to modern fuel injection of Pontiac 400.
Yes, sir.
I mean, it's only got to make it better, right?
Yep. And then I'm going to throw boost at it.
Okay. Here you go. You got your first. Sounds awesome.
Yeah. So I don't know. We'll see. I know there's guys that's done it with small block Chevy. And no, John Wilburn, I will not be picking it up because a 400 Pontiac weighs like 6,000 pounds.
Yeah, but my thing is, the beauty of this group of people that we surround ourselves with is we take stuff that nobody else either wants or nobody else wants to do, and we do some really crazy stuff with it. I mean, we've got the LS head conversion on a straight six. We've got a Holy Goat full of bullet holes. Holley Sniper on a tunnel ram. We've got the full gambit of different stuff out there. We got the fastest ambulance on YouTube in our group.
We do.
So a full fuel injected tuned port 400.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll have to see how that shakes out.
Yeah,
but we should probably get onto the show.
Yeah. All right. So we've done shows. Yeah. We've done shows, the Australian version. Today we're going to go a little north of the border where it's a little colder. Okay, It's a lot colder.
It is a lot colder. But here's what I'll say. So knowing cars the way I do, I didn't know all the specific nuances about every make and model, and I definitely didn't know every little detail about Pontiacs. That's why I love the show, is the stuff that I don't know, I either learn and fill it in later, right? Or I get schooled right here, and then I learn about it, by force feeding. The audience itself will make sure I know. But we wanted to kind of venture down this path of the Canadian Pontiacs with very specific focus this week. But for those that don't know, Pontiacs in Canada, or Canada, however you want to make fun of these guys, they're not quite the same as the Pontiacs here in the lower 48. And there's a few reasons for that. And I found it quite interesting learning the history about it. But basically, if you go clear back to the beginning, the automobile industry was, really just in its infancy in the 1900s. We ended up with these American-built cars, being built, and then like as early as 1903, I think, shipped up into Canada. And at the time, Canada's policy was, we don't want imports. So if you're going to bring them in, they put a really high tariff on these things, up as high as 35%. So you got to think about, granted, costs were less, but money was less too. You're importing a car into a country where now there's a 35% markup just to come in the door. How is that going to compete? And are you actually going to ever make any real money? Because if you want to lower your price so that you're in the price point, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so it made it expensive. And so car companies started figuring out, well, we'll just build over there, or up there. Yeah, we're just going to go there and make our stuff. And a lot of times that just ended up, we're going to take our stuff and assemble it there. Well, they didn't want to recreate the same thing they had in the lower 48 in Canada. So a lot of the time they would end up just using one vehicle platform and then just converting it to give you some different flavors. Ford did this. Of course, GM did this. Pontiac became GM's, little runt stepchild there. And for lack of better explanation, that's how you end up with some Pontiacs that don't really look like Pontiacs that we know.
No, they was definitely, well, the early ones actually did though.
Right.
And
but
then
then
later,
later they kind of started globbing on, and I mean, that's how they ended up with these V8s and straight sixes out of Chevys in Pontiac cars that never had those types of engines, specifically big blocks, because Pontiacs don't have what? Big
they
block.
do in Canada.
But they don't in the U.S. There's no such thing as a Pontiac big block.
And that is such a crazy argument that people get into. I'm like, all right, y'all are just like, you're stretching, because
it's a big block, right? But it's not what we call a big block versus small block.
It's a big cubic inch Pontiac V8.
Right.
There's no small block. There's no big block. And people go with like bore stroke, all that stuff, but it's like, whatever. I mean, you can take the heads off of a 455 and put them on a 326. So you can't do that with a small block Chevy and a big block Chevy. So,
right.
I don't know.
So, all of that, there's a lot of little subtle nuances that we are not going to tackle completely in this show tonight. Number one, because we had a birthday celebration to talk about, and that took up too much time. But what really happened is you ended up with some pretty interesting scenarios where cars that you think would have this option actually have this option. You have these great big body Pontiac cars that are now on a much smaller wheelbase because they were actually on a Chevrolet wheelbase, not a Pontiac wheelbase. You have some cars like we're going to talk about tonight that's not what I thought it was supposed to look like. And it turns out it's because it's not. It's a Canadian built version. And so we fast forward, and if I remember correctly, we get through those early 1900s into the 30s and 40s, and we reach up into the 50s, and what was it? Bunky Knudsen. He became Pontiac's general manager in '56. He transformed Pontiac in every fashion. He had of course, we know them, the Catalina, the Star Chief, Bonneville, even the Grand Prix. And but in Canada, they had to call them something different. So if I mess this up, you correct me, but it's the Laurentane.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I heard
So
it pronounced like 3 different ways. So,
and the Strata Chief and the Parasane, and then of course we graduate up a little further into the Beaumont, which is where we're at tonight.
So the Beaumont actually started out as the Acadian, and the Beaumont was a option. It was the high end option of the Acadian. So you had different trim levels between 62 and 65, and the Beaumont was the high end package. So when 1966 came around, the Beaumont became its own entity. So yeah, that's and if anybody knows Chevelles, that's a Chevelle with a weird.
That's
Pontiac.
A Chevelle all day long.
And it didn't even have an actual Pontiac emblem. It had a Pontiac type crest with maple leaves to represent Canada.
How cool is that?
You know, and I don't dislike them. I'll be honest with you. I don't dislike
It's a Pontiac with a little syrup on it. It's all good.
I think they're fascinating. And you could get them anywhere from a 6-cylinder all the way up to the what they call it, the SD with the 396. So is that So it was a Super Duty, I guess, 396. So like everybody said,
SS, right? They didn't call it the SS. They called it the SD. Yeah.
Yeah, it was the SD, and it was really weird. But that was in 1969, maybe late 68. But in 66, they pretty much took a Chevelle and made it into a Pontiac, Canadian Pontiac, and it had anywhere from a 6-cylinder to like the small block. And like everybody said, they had a Chevy frame. They didn't get the wide track Pontiac. So they're not as cool as ours, but they're still cool.
Yeah. Testa says they used Le Mans dashes.
All right.
Give it a more Pontiac look, right? And they were called, I don't think they were Super Duty. They were Sport Deluxe is what they were called. The SD was Sport Deluxe.
Yeah, I'm going to call it Super Duty because it sounds cooler. Trying to give it that Pontiac feel, man. Come on.
Right.
But at least they had some sort of muscle car. I mean.
Correct. They didn't just leave them completely hanging. There was, we were basically flaunting our GTOs at the time, right? We had we had the first muscle cars, and we had some of the coolest muscle cars, and then poor Canada's up there like, hey, we got our maple leafs and syrup, but we don't got no muscle cars. So Pontiac Canada came to the rescue in this particular instance with the Beaumont.
And the 62 to 65 Acadian was actually a Chevy 2 Nova, like the little one. And it was only available with a 6-cylinder with either a 2-speed power glide or a 3-speed manual. And there is your Sport Deluxe 396.
Yep.
Chevyac.
That's a little runner right there.
Chevyac.
Yeah. So Danny Boyd says you could still get a real one, but it had tariffs. Well, yes and no. At one point you couldn't get by 64, absolutely. But before that, you couldn't get a lot of the Pontiacs that we drove up there because they just didn't import them. But later, yes, they did go ahead and import some of these cars in. But you're looking at, I can get this car or I can get this one over here for a lot more. We're talking up to 35% tariff. If you can get this Beaumont like you said, with the 396 for 35% less than the GTO, what are you really losing other than the GTO name? We know wide track and all those other things, but we're talking Canada. I'm not saying they didn't know any better, but we just want some horsepower. We want to run to go get groceries and spin the tires.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're going to, avoiding mooses. And is that how you say that? Mooses, or would it be mises?
It's just moose.
It's just moose. All right.
Yep.
Well, they're big. They're bigger than cars. So, I mean,
correct.
Anyway, I digress there. But at least they had something. I mean, yeah. And that is a 67, Dan. The first one was a 66.
Yep.
So
I don't remember what the next one is.
So they did follow like the Pontiac body changes though, where they got smaller, like because 68 is the smaller Chevelle, like the 68.
Right. Just to answer the question, Dan, I was talking about Pontiacs in general. Like if you got a full size Pontiac up there, you're actually, if it's Canadian version, you're actually getting a Chevy version, Chevy frame, Chevy, all that. And, if you've got the same, full size Pontiac sitting right next to it, it's going to be a different width, a different length, the whole deal.
Yeah, their wheelbase, they had a different, I read that their standards on wheelbase was different. So they actually had to modify the quarter panels and stuff to make them work. It had a shorter wheelbase, I think, if I remember right.
Yes. The Canadian versions are shorter wheelbase.
I think it was only 103 inches or something like that, which yeah. So there's your 68 Beaumont. And that's actually a pretty good looking car in my opinion.
So I personally love this car, and obvious reasons why. I had a 68 Chevelle, my very first car ever. And I, of course, loved it. But when you have that car with a Pontiac grill on it, I just immediately want it.
Yeah, it looks cool, but you can definitely tell from a side profile that it is 100% Chevelle. But the taillight, I didn't send you any rear pictures, but the taillights.
I got one.
Oh, you did.
So the 68 Chevelle had really thin taillights that didn't look like that. Even the 69 Chevelle had a much bigger taillight, but again, still didn't look like that. And if you look, it's got little insets inside between the trunk lid and the bumper too. And it's just uniquely Canadian.
Because that's where the reverse lights are.
Right. Where mine were in the bumper.
And you can tell like the marker lights are different than the Chevelle.
Yep.
But they was completely different cars. They basically took a bunch of GM parts and threw them together and, made a car and called it a Pontiac.
Well, there's your 69 convertible. I just threw that in for fun.
I'm really not a convertible fan, but that's a pretty good looking car. And at least their steering wheel's on the correct side.
Well, it should be.
And they actually sold the Beaumonts and stuff in Puerto Rico and Chile too. I didn't know that until I was doing a little research. I didn't know they had those.
Yeah, they had a nice little kind of export business there.
They even had them in South Africa, but they was right-hand drive.
Right.
So that's a little weird to me.
One of my favorite little tidbits I pulled out of this was not just the look of the car, but taking the Le Mans or even the GTO dashes and integrating them in the place of, the Chevrolet dash that was there. They wanted you to get the feel of you driving a Pontiac by putting the Pontiac dash in front of you. So that they went through at least that much effort to try to give you that.
So on the Chevelles, I don't know about the one you had, the 60. You have a 68.
Yeah, 68.
Did it have the long sweeping gauge instead of the round gauges?
Nope.
See, I
Mine
think
didn't.
I think in 70 that Chevelle has the long sweeping gauges,
That seems
and
right.
the Pontiac still had the round gauges, which I prefer. I'm not a big fan of those real long sweeping gauges. It takes longer to bury the speedometer, in my opinion.
Jeff had a good question. I want to pull it up real quick. By the way, Jeff from Two Hacks is here. Buck Does It's here. JB's Little Shop. All right. So Jeff,
Battery and Ed's
yep,
machine.
yep, that's awesome. Welcome, Blake and Ed. Um, did we cover why the Pontiacs had the Chevy engines? And we haven't yet, but did you want to highlight that?
Oh, go ahead.
the non-engine guy. So basically, the way I understood it is they didn't want to recreate an engine plant, and definitely didn't want to export or import those engines in. They didn't have all the tooling and everything else going on, and so you ended up with basically an overabundance of these Chevrolet engines, and they're just already dropping them in these chassis, and then just kind of reworking the grills on these cars. I mean, I'm trying to keep it abbreviated, but
Right. Since they already had the Chevy stuff there, they didn't have the Pontiac stuff there. They
well,
just went with what
early
they had.
on, you actually saw some of the Pontiac engines up there, and so you could actually get a Chevrolet car with a Pontiac engine early on, and it's one of the few places that you see that. And so then, turnabout's fair play. We flip it, and later you got Chevy engines into Pontiacs.
I like it the other way around. A 455 and a Chevelle. I mean, I'm a little biased here, but the Pontiacs have always looked better than the Chevys. Always. I don't care which one it is. I can't think of a Chevy that looks better than a Pontiac of the body style. Except, yeah, even in the 57, the 57 Pontiac, I think it's better looking than the 57 Chevy. It's just, they had a lot of the same styling cues, but they just looked better.
I like the big hood bands all the way down.
Yeah. And they're better than the Buicks. The Buicks always had those. I don't know. I'll probably offend somebody here, but I cannot stand those fake portholes on the Buicks. The old ones that had the 3 or 4 holes that was functional was cool.
Right. Well, they got to keep up their image.
Right. I mean, that's like walking down the sticker aisle at AutoZone and buying a bunch of stuff.
Well, there's that too. Did they have AutoZone back in the 60s and 70s?
I don't know. I don't think so.
They don't. But anyway, yeah, plastic stick-on vents. So basically, you ended up with a situation where they don't want to completely reinvent the literal wheel in Canada. Excuse me. And so you end up with these plants in Canada that have very specific tasks, very specific roles, making certain parts for cars and trying to make a multitude of different types of cars. And that basically is where you ended up. I mean, I hate to say it, almost like an AMC in a way. I'm going to pull apart from this guy and I'm going to pull apart from this guy. And then I'm going to grab one over here and we're going to throw it together and make a car.
Yeah, pretty much. It was at least they was pretty much all GM though.
Yes.
You talk about an AMC, it depends on what year it is. You may have a, Chrysler transmission, a GM steering column.
Speaking of Canadians.
Oh, look at that. Did you have a chance to talk with him at No Name Nationals?
I did.
Yeah. Real cool dude.
Absolutely.
He unfortunately had to race a Mustang for the weekend, but
he did pretty good though. I know he outdid me. I'm pretty sure he outdid you.
This is true. And he outdid the guy that owned the Mustang.
This is true. That is true. But we all had fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So he is a guy that definitely knows a little thing or two about Canadian cars.
Yes, he does. Well, maybe we need to have another Canadian show later and invite Canadians on to talk about Canadian cars.
So I was
We'll let them
actually,
pick their favorite car and we'll just talk about it.
as long as it ain't a Ford.
No, it's got to be Pontiac.
Okay. Yeah. You scared me for a minute.
Somebody asked me the other day, they're like, so do you guys only talk about Pontiacs? I'm like, yeah, it's Pontiac Power Hour.
It's kind of in the name.
We drift a little bit, but we try to get back to center.
Right. I mean, yeah, because we talked about AMC a while ago, but I don't know. We have a guy in here who has an AMC and a Pontiac station wagon, so I think that's all right.
Well, it depends, because at No Name Nationals they call it the Pontiac Javelin. That was just a minor slip up.
I really think he should be swapping in like a 455 or a 400 or something in it right now.
Don't give him any ideas.
I'm just saying it would be a little cooler.
He's probably throwing wrenches right now. Yeah, Blake, everyone's getting sick. I mean, obviously we interact with a bunch of people during Thanksgiving, but oh, look at this. Jeffro crawled over some Canadian Pontiacs a few weekends ago. Yes, they are very cool.
The first one I saw at a car show was, I think it was when I lived out in Phoenix. I'd never seen one before, and I was like, what the crap is that? That's like somebody got confused when they was redoing their Chevelle.
For sure.
And then I started talking.
That's what caught me, was seeing one of these Chevelles with that weird front grille. I'm like, that's not right. And that's when I started diving down that rabbit trail.
It's got the 65 or 66, 67 GTO look to the long, narrower grills on that one.
Yep.
It's kind of cool.
And instead of the stacked headlights, they got the Chevelle headlight.
Yeah. I like the stacked headlight, but I also like the side by side. Like, should have went with the Pontiac, man. I'm just saying.
So I want to touch on the fact that you mentioned it, but we kind of glossed over it. So, they ended up, before they had the Beaumont, they had that Acadian Beaumont, which you said the Beaumont was a higher package,
yes,
of the Acadian. So it was a Pontiac Acadian then.
Yeah, it was the Pontiac Acadian. It had the base model. It had an Invader, Canso, and then the deluxe was the Beaumont, and then they had the Beaumont Sport Deluxe.
Ah, the SD, gotcha.
So
all right,
they did that until 66, and then they just made the Beaumont, because it was the Acadian Beaumont until 66. And then they dropped.
You said that was before 66. It was on the Chevy 2 Nova?
Yeah, it was on the Chevy 2 Nova.
Platform? Yeah.
It was only available with the inline six and either 3-speed or an automatic.
Yeah. So that's what's really odd to me, is they called it one thing. And I get that. We had the Le Mans and then the GTO package Le Mans and then later the GTO, and we had that. But they switched platforms completely, but kept the name. So again, I know it happens, but they just said, yeah, we're done with this platform. We're going muscle car this time. And they took it right to the Chevelle platform and powered on.
Yeah. And yeah, sorry, I got distracted.
That's
a squirrel.
Okay.
Squirrel.
Yeah. It's a birthday. You can do that.
It was a long day at work, let's just say. We started our 31 days of Christmas, and then I have a big video coming out on Demolition Ranch tomorrow for Bruner Targus. So I was trying to prepare for that. And anyway, enough about my work. But so
Right.
my brain's a little fried today.
That's all right. That's awesome. Yeah. You have that collaboration with Demolition Ranch. That's really cool.
Yeah.
All right. So I know, guys, we didn't go deep into the world of Canadian Pontiacs, but we wanted to touch on the Beaumont because, at least for us, we both really like the car. I think it's really cool. It's definitely something we don't have here in the States, but I don't know, maybe we should.
Yeah. I mean, I've seen a few at car shows and stuff, and I don't really know what it takes to bring a Canadian car to the States. Do you have to get it inspected or
Right.
like,
Yeah, you got to get it cleared to come in. But my question would be, how much hate would we get if we just made a Chevelle into one? It's obviously not the same. It's definitely not numbers matching. Just like Pure Pontiac Garage says, if you really, if you got a car, let's go with the pole barn analogy. Pole barn garage takes garbage and makes it cool. So we find the most garbage Chevelle we can find. We find Canadian parts and we convert it to a Canadian looking Pontiac, and we fix it by putting a Pontiac engine in it.
I heard that there's a guy on that has a Motor Trend show now that has a red, white, and blue Chevelle that he is retiring. Maybe I should try to.
Yeah, but they
get
didn't
that
make
from
the
him.
Beaumont in the 70s.
True. Yeah, 69 was last year, the Beaumont.
Yeah, I don't think he'll get rid of the Chevelle, but it's probably time to retire it.
Yeah. They did start making the Paracine in Canada, or they already had it in Canada, but that it was actually the same car in Canada as it was in the States.
Right.
Because they had a plant in Canada and they had a plant in Kansas City, and it was the same car. Of course, I think that's out there. They took all the tariffs and everything, or they made them easier.
Well, yeah. And that's one of the things, we said earlier is, you ended up with the Canadian version of the car. This was after the tariffs were lifted. You got the Canadian version of a car sitting on the lot, and you've got, let's say the GTO sitting right next to it. Again, there's still a price difference, but now you don't have that 35% markup. So now you have the Canadian and the regular, US version sitting right next to each other in the lot. Which one do you buy? And that's the hard thing. That's the question that we never had to answer because we're not from Canada. But if you talk to mongrels, you buy the Beaumont.
Right. Yeah, and he said that. He said the Canadian Pontiacs have Chevy under. We touched on that they actually had different frames and everything.
Yep.
Of course, like my car actually has the same frame as a Chevelle because they'll interchange. There's guys that do that all the time. They're pretty much the amount of parts that'll work off of a Chevelle and a Le Mans is kind of weird because like the whole floor pan's the same, the whole roof skin's the same.
But when you go big body car, that's when I think that's really where the differences are.
Right.
Because the Canadian versions were shorter. They didn't have the wide track. They had a whole different setup completely. They
look really funky actually because they're like a shorter Impala. It's like somebody shrunk down an Impala and put it on a 103-inch wheelbase. So it's like it's already ready for the Derby.
Right. Hey, Barrows is here.
Well, good evening, Barrows.
Trying to see if we missed anybody else coming in. I think we still got everybody. Well, you know what time it is?
Oh, yeah.
It's time for a little bit of... Yeah.
Everybody's favorite.
Let's see. Oh, yeah. It is Pontiac Trivia Time, sponsored by Super Clean, which we appreciate them every week giving out a special prize pack to one of our either guests or one of our audience members. So we want to thank them for providing that for us every week.
So I tried out the stuff that I got, and I will say Super Clean is exactly what it says. It does a very good job.
Yeah, I noticed Dalton on the pole barn garage there. He had his Super Clean shirt on and his latest, what was that? That was a Blazer video, K5 Blazer video. And I know that he contacted Super Clean after being on our show, and they gave him a little prize pack for that. So let's go ahead and jump into our Pontiac trivia as normal, guys. Make sure you join into the live chat. Put your answers down below, and we'll see who's closest to the winning of the prize pack this week. And that's right, December is going to have more prizes going out to you guys, not just to us and our guests. And no, it's going to you. You guys are the ones that watch. So we're going to find somebody that gets real close to the right answer, and whoever's closest wins. It's kind of like whose line is it anyway? You know, the answers are made up and nobody really wins. So
That Badtree, he's already guessing.
oh, look at this. So many answers. John Wilburn says 2. All right. So the first question, guys. What year did the USA and Canada sign the Canada-United States Automotive Products Agreement? Was it A, 1955, B, 1959, C, 1965, or D, 1970? Oh, Landon, Cousin Mike never got his prize pack. So I will get back with them and find out why. I know they were changing reps about that time during No Name. I went from a female named Jessica to a dude named Jeff. So I'll double check and find out because he earned his. We need to get it to him. All right. So Danny Boyd says 59. Mr. Polo says 59. Hunter says 55. Barrow says the same. D, R, and C are all wrong. Gotcha. Iris says 59. Jeffro says 3. All right. Mongrel says 1970. Colleen says 55. We got some 1970s. Oh, Colleen changed her answer to 1965. BNR says A. Two-Hack says B. And now we just got a lot of random stuff. Oh, Hunter's changing his to C. Do we
He
count
must have
that?
seen somebody else change theirs.
Yeah. Hunter's supposed to know this stuff, but guess who does know this? That'd be Shopcat. Welcome, Shopcat. Nice to see you. Ed's Machine says C. Let's find out. The answer is C. Ha. That's because the Canuck ponchos became dressed up Chevys. Well, all right then. So, commonly known as the Auto Pact, it was a trade agreement between Canada and the United States. It was signed by Prime Minister Lester B. Pearson, President Lyndon B. Johnson in January of 1965. Does everybody understand what that meant? It meant the tariffs went away. So no more of that 35% markup. You still saw Canadian Pontiacs for a few years before they, really started getting in the ones from the lower 48. But all right, next one. So that same agreement, what was the year that APTA was declared illegal and abolished by the World Trade Organization? Was it A, 1975, B, 1982, C, 1991, or D, 2001?
It's a pretty big range there.
Well, I'm just seeing if people know their Canadian history, including the Canadians in the chat.
I mean, there's one guy that should be getting all these right.
So far, Shopcat's got. He was on it.
A question mark?
A.
So is that an actual answer or is that it may be?
Maybe it's A, like Canadian, right?
A, yeah, A.
See? Cousin Mike got 75. Colleen says 91. Hunter says 75. Leighton Welding is here and he says yes. Barrow says 64. No, that isn't right. 2001 from Danny Boyd. Jeffro says 75. We got Alan saying 82. Same for Mr. Polo. Blaker, he's got 91. Mopar Tim's got 82. Irish says A-ish, 75. Dakota wants to know if Canada has any history. You know, there's Canadians in the chat, Dakota, so gotta be careful of that. They might come down here and they're gonna syrup you or hockey fight you.
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
You don't want some hockey hooligans, brawling it out. You don't know what that. All right, Mongrel says Shopcat knows. So the answer is D, 2001. So the Auto Pact was abolished in 2001 after the World Trade Organization ruled it, declared it illegal. But by that time, NAFTA was in place and it just superseded it. Who really pays attention to the laws? We don't listen.
I do. And when I was working on my car, I noticed that my tires say for track use only.
Yeah. You noticed it. You recognized it. Oh, man. Nobody got that one. No, wait. Somebody did. I saw somebody. Danny Boyd got that one. All right. Just trying to keep track. Let's see here. Rolling through. In 1965, Canadians had a choice between a well-equipped Pontiac Beaumont or, for a little more, the GTO. But what was the price difference in Canadian? Was it A, $682, B, $749, C, $880, or D, a whopping $1,200? And there they go. Blake starts us off with 682. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to make a smart aleck comment about something. So
Danny Boyd says 749. Colleen 880. Hunter says 880. Dakota says $1,200. Cousin Mike says 749. 880 for Jay. Shopcat's guessing A. Chad says 500 Maple Leafs. That is true. With a dash of syrup. I think it's spelled E-H-H. A. Ed's Machine says C. Tim says D. Yep. We got D, B. All right. D is a nice round number. BNR is going to go with A. And Chad says 10 liters of syrup. Got it. All right.
Mongrel says D.
Well, yeah, then that's got to be it. But it's not. It was A, $682 Canadian.
Okay, I'm just going to say, how the hell is the Canadian in the room getting all of them wrong? Sorry, mongrels. I just got to ask.
I got to say, in 1965, the Beaumont SD Sports Deluxe, equipped with a 350-horse 327, could be ordered for a mere $3,300 Canadian, compared to the $3,982 Canadian price tag on the imported GTO. So they
Yep.
were also offered an optional 396 Chevrolet big block with the GTO instrument panel grafted into the Chevelle body. And then the Beaumont had the Pontiac look, at least from the driver's seat.
Yeah, that is a funky looking Chevelle, is what that is.
But it's cheaper.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see here.
Mongrel says Shopcat's Canadian too, but he's getting them right for the most part.
Yep. Shopcat is Canadian too. He hasn't gotten them all right. We have some clear, winners in the group here, and it's currently not our Canadians. That's okay. They're here, and I love them, and that's okay. All right, guys. What was the 1994 to 1998 Canadian-built Pontiac Sunrunner based on? Was it A, the Isuzu Amigo, B, the Toyota RAV4, C, the Suzuki X90, which is kind of a cool little thing, or D, the Geo Tracker? Oh, man.
I know this one. I looked it up earlier, or when I was researching this, I was like, what? So I
don't know where we left off, but Shopcat was right there with an exclamation point this time. Geo Tracker. Chad says Geo Tracker.
This one's new enough. They should know.
All right. I thought maybe I was going to throw a few people, but guess what? Everybody's saying Geo Tracker. Oh, except for Tim. Sorry, Tim. Should have jumped on the bandwagon.
Duhack said A.
Oh, he did. The Suzuki Amigo is pretty cool, too. Blaker's giving her all the D. There's D. Danny Boyd says Trudeau. There's a D in that. There's also an A. And anyway.
That's it. Turdo?
Yeah. Turdo. Maybe A. Ryan says D. You had a wild Geo Tracker.
Oh, yeah. Rock crawler.
Cool. And, Samurai. Samurai's pretty cool, too.
Yeah, I had one of those, too. Yeah.
All right. So far, everybody is A is D in Canadian English.
A.
It's D. The Geo Tracker, but it was also called the Chevrolet Tracker, the GMC Tracker, and I'm going to say it wrong, but it's the Asuna Tracker before. So the Sunrunner was marketed more of like an upscale version, and the Asuna brand was kind of like our Saturn brand. It just didn't last very long, or I guess in this case the Geo brand, but it was rebranded as Pontiac. So there you've got a picture of one right there with a Pontiac badge. The steering wheel has Pontiac in it, which doesn't look right at all. But man, it was available 2- and 4-wheel drive, and you could get a convertible.
If I'd have known that when I had my Pontiac brother, I'd have had, or my Geo Tracker, I'd have had Pontiac crap all over it.
Well, you could have just done it anyway. Go to, AutoZone and get your stickers. You could put some Buick portholes on the side.
I don't fly like that, man.
All right, one last one, guys. In 1970, you could buy the Pontiac Laurentane with a factory-equipped Chevrolet 454 under the hood. But how many big-body Canadian Pontiacs got the same treatment that year, 1970? Was it A, 89, B, 122, C, 221? We're talking all, right? All big-body Canadian Pontiacs for 1970. Or was it D, 448? It could have been any one of those. Oh, look at this. They're already on top of it. Dakota says C. Danny Boyd says B. Mr. Polo says C. Hunter says C. Colleen says B. Cousin Mike C. B. B. Blaker's got D, 448. Jeff Rose got 221. Jason says C. All right. Wow. 221. They're still pouring in. Ed's machine is A.
I don't know what Shopcat's talking about.
Laurentian. I'm saying it wrong.
Yeah, well, whatever.
Sorry, Shopcat, I hacked it. We'll bring you in next time and you can just say it for us. But the correct answer is C, 221. There's a picture of it right there. It says Pontiac 454. I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes. But only 221 of those babies made it into full-size Canadian Pontiacs with 345 horse with that 454 engine.
That is the only big block Pontiac ever made.
Right there.
It was made.
We talked so much, crap about big blocks earlier. There you go. It says Pontiac. We know it's not, but it says it on there.
Yeah, it's the wrong color, though. They could have at least used Pontiac blue. I mean, come on now.
Well, when you pluck it straight out of the Chevy lot, But Chad says that's 150 moose power.
Ooh, mooses are big.
We want to thank everybody for joining in and playing. We need to sit and tally this up here, but I'm pretty sure. I'm thinking Danny Boyd probably got the most of them right tonight. So I'm going to give Danny Boyd a super clean prize pack. Danny Boyd, you can reach out to me at buffsgarage@gmail.com. Send me an email. Give me your address and where I can send this prize pack, and we'll get it out to you. Cousin Mike, I won't forget about you. We'll get yours as well. Well, what'd you think? That was your birthday show.
It's pretty good.
You like that?
Yeah, I like that.
All right, guys, we've reached the end of our broadcast, but I want to thank you all for coming and watching the show, the real Pontiac Power Hour, and we will be back all this month with special guests, special prizes, and a lot more going on. So thank you guys for watching.
Have a good night, guys. Thank you. I had my hat on too tight. It was freaking hurting my head, but I didn't want to take it off in the